against the bigger government there and controlling the business of our government. I don't think it's a proper role of government to be marketing for businesses, and I think most business owners would be just fine if we didn't put committees together and try to figure out how to market for them. They'd probably rather keep as much of their money as possible and let them use their creativeness and their hard work and advertise on their own instead of the city government trying to do it and creating two or three new liaisons and committees and how to advertise for the businesses, and just let them do that on their own. And so I just thought, with all due respect, I thought that this was a little bit misleading. That it just seems like we care about you as business owners, so we're going to give back to you. No, we're going to give back some of the money, 20% of the money that we just took from you in the first place. And I'd just much rather not get in the marketing business for businesses. Let business owners keep that portion of the money and let them. They might do it in advertising. They might need a new oven for their business. We'll let the business owner decide what they need at the time and how they want to spend their money to be successful as a business. So so with this E, along with, I just fundamentally, I disagree with this E, and also the E, just to be clear, you had mentioned that at this time we're not recommending the Good Landlord Program, but E does recommend that we start that. And so a year from now, then we can add the disproportionate fees to that as well. And I'm also against that.
Just to clarify, what I meant by we're not recommending the Good Landlord Program, I stated that so that we could point out why we're not charging the disproportionate fee for the rentals.
Yeah.
Because we're required to have a Good Landlord Program established in order to do that.
And in your recommendations, Debbie, you didn't have the Good Landlord Program in.
Right.
And so you were right. I was just showing there's a difference with this E than the ones that you're proposing, where the Good Landlord Program was not a part of it. This one, it is part of it.
Right. We would like a little bit of time to relook at the Good Landlord Program and see if we want to establish that, and then at a later time possibly charge the disproportionate fee if we do establish a Good Landlord Program later on. But to address the concerns that you and Ron came up with, we are not taking more money from the businesses. These are fees that the city can charge to try and recoup our expenses. We're not recouping the max. What we're recouping is a portion of that. What I think Brent and the Economic Development Committee was saying was, there are some expenses that the city are incurring. We're trying to recoup those. We're within our rights to try and recoup those. And then we're taking some of that and pouring it back into the businesses. And so we're not saying we are charging you more so that we can provide more services for you. We're already trying to recoup what we're already spending, and we're still giving back to the businesses for that. Just to clarify that.
And very good points, that the money that is collected through disproportionate fees by the state regulation has to be tied to certain municipal services that are being used at a disproportionate level. Economic development isn't one of them. The 20% of the business license fees are not going to economic development. The money that will be collected from the disproportionate fees is going to go to existing police costs, all of them. That's where the disproportionate fees are going. But what we're saying is, now that's reducing how much we're currently paying that out of the general fund. The police budget is the same as the police budget is right now, so it's being subsidized out of the general fund for these costs. We're saying we're then going to collect the disproportionate fees. That's that much less that will need to come out of the general fund. And I'm saying of that savings, we take an amount equal to 20% of what the businesses paid that went to the police department, and take that out of the savings to finance an economic development fund. And as to whether it's the appropriate role of government, right now our city spends, I don't have the number on the top of my head, $3,000 to $5,000 on the Chamber of Commerce membership every year, which was approved by everyone on this city council. Which the purpose of that Chamber of Commerce is to market the city market the city's businesses. I'm saying we need to take that a little further, that same concept that was already approved by everybody here in the budget last year. The Chamber of Commerce money we're putting in, let's put some money into our business association. Let's put some money into marketing our businesses instead of just putting the money into a Chamber of Commerce out of our city to do that marketing for us. So that's something that was part of our budget and we have approved in the past. So I think it's a reasonable jump of logic that it is an acceptable use going forward, that we now say, hey, we're going to do that on a local level with our control of what's going on instead of we're putting thousands of dollars of fees into a Chamber of Commerce. And I'm not saying we're going to stop that. I'm just saying we're already doing this exact thing. I think we could do it very effectively locally that would help our businesses. So just 2 points of clarification there. The money is not coming out of the business license fees. That money has to go to where the state law says it has to go. But the savings that we're going to see out of the general fund, I'm saying we take a portion of that for economic development.
Well,
Excuse me, no, I'm going to call us Carl. Carl's turn.
If I understand this right, we are voting, or we're going to discuss and vote on one of these options. We're not necessarily voting on this philosophy that is titled overall flog.
that's one of the options.
I mean, well, this is not linked to option E, correct?
It's not, but we,
But I understand, but when we vote, we're gonna vote to accept option A, B, C, D, or E. And whichever option we vote on and decide, that's the option we have. And then we're gonna have a ordinance
Section 2.
or something like that, is that? Or will,
we would take that option and incorporate it into the consolidated fee schedule, which would be approved at the next council meeting.
okay, and then when does this, like, these items, additional services to businesses, is that something that would come in a amendment or a ordinance or?
No, then we would reopen the budget in February, once we've collected all of the fees, because we send out the business licenses in December, they pay for them in January. We would have the revenue at that time, we would reopen the budget and then address the allocating of money to.
Okay, so my question is, right now, and not to throw this out, but right now, these things are not being voted on as much as the options. Is that correct? And this is more of a philosophy in how you got to these options and possible things we could do with the money when we have our, am I right or wrong?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so at this point, it's good to have this discussion, it is, but we are not necessarily making the decision on these items.
Other than Brent is correct in that the disproportionate fee for the businesses is going back towards the police department, and the idea of having a liaison is, what do I want to say, preferable. I guess.
Well, I understand that, I just want to clarify for myself that I'm not necessarily saying this is what we're doing with
Mike?
the extra funds, correct?
I think because the quasi-agreement, I guess, was that options had to be in the spreadsheet form, so we could do a very close analysis, that right now we have options A, B, C, D. The narrative, just explanatory. I don't think it's tied to it, although I'm not going to have a public hearing, but your name was mentioned, Sean, and if you could just do a head nod. Was the business community in favor of, let's say, option B, E, with some of the additional things like a liaison officer, things like that?
Yes.
I feel like an attorney, I'm sorry, Dave. You can say it's yes or no.
We're absolutely not for a disproportionate fee. But seeing that it's going to happen,